there was some setbacks, but at the
a couple
end,
of fights.
Yeah, we had a fire. Like
the
first
process,
week,
exactly.
First week we had a fire in the room. So that was
oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And I'm happy that Maxime,
thankfully it was early in the project and not late in the project.
Are you ready to learn how to grow your interior design business? Welcome to the lounge, the Chaise Lounge. So get comfortable, grab a glass of Cabernet, and let's talk the business of interior design. Now, here's your host, Nick May.
Well, welcome, and thanks for joining me today in the lounge. I'm Nick May, your host, and today we're going to be talking about growing your interior design business. So whether you're in Chicago, Milan, or Naples, Florida, I know you want to do one thing. You want to grow your interior design business, and we're going to do just that by finding out how successful designers do that. From literally around the world today, we are going a little bit international because today's a special episode. Today, I get to share with you some of my learnings from the Kips Bay show house. As you guys know, I went out to New York and had the opportunity to visit with a lot of the designers out there. I didn't get the opportunity to interview all of the designers, but we've got a selection of designers, and this is actually going to be a two-part series. So today I'm going to be sharing with you some of the interviews that I got to meet with, probably almost about half of them. And then next week we're going to have kind of round two, but I'm also going to be talking with Phyllis Harbinger. As you know, I got to meet her for the very first time out in New York when I was there. And we had this really great conversation about, what does it really take to do a show house. And so it was one of the themes that I talked with the different designers throughout the show. And but so it's kind of like that's going to be the wrap-up show for my visit down to Kips Bay. I have a ton of designers, and I had the opportunity to talk to so many of them, and of course we could have gone on and on and on, but then I wouldn't have really been able to get to everybody, and you guys probably didn't want to listen to an 8-hour show. So what I ended up doing is we probably interviewed most folks for about 10 to 15 minutes, and we edited those down. And so today I've got 5 interviews to share with you, and we're just going to go one into the other. I'm not going to be like introducing in between. I'm not going to cut in between the interviews. We're just going to go one into the other. I do introduce each guest as we start out with the interview, so it won't feel weird. You won't not know who I'm talking to. But the designers that I have on, and this is going to be the order in which I interview them. David Kendall, who's with David Collins Design out of London. They came all the way from London to do one of the spaces, it's actually the entryway and up the stairs. David was fantastic. I get to spend a bunch of time with David. Kind of one of the cool things with them is they're helping Baker Furniture launch into fabrics and wall coverings and furniture, a new line. And so that's going to be coming up. And I'm pretty sure one of the wallpapers that they used is in that line. So it's kind of a preview for that. And we do talk about that a little bit. So the next person that joins me is Suzanne Kasler, and she's from Atlanta. She was the family room. I want to call it the family room. It was right off of the kitchen. And then it was a really great space because it led out to one of the patios that was done for the house as well. So she's got a new line coming out with hickory chair. So we spent some time with her. Then I interview Alex Papachristidis. And he is a longtime veteran of the show. So it was really great to talk to somebody that had a lot of experience. And we had a lot of fun talking through his room. There's a lot of detail. Very fantastic. Then a newcomer to the show, Katie Curtis. Now, she was also a part of this big, expansive stairway system because it's like I can't remember now, 6 floors or something like this. And she was fantastic to talk to. She talks a little bit about some of her challenges that she had along the way. And one of the companies that she worked with that really came alongside of her was Decorator. And the cool thing about them was I got to meet the founder of Decorator while I was at the show house, Claude. And he was so fun. I was up in one of the rooms where there was this chalk art, and it was a very crowded room. And he just came over and started talking. We took some pictures. It was really fun. I'm actually going to try and get Claude Gournay on the show. His handmade wallpaper that Katie put up was just gorgeous. Then we're going to close out today with 2 guys. I'm just saying, Max and Richard. They're both from Canada, and they're getting ready to kind of launch into the New York market and have a presence in New York. But I had a lot of fun. They were in the closet. They were in the master closet. They did a fantastic job with this thing. It was really cool. They were really fun to talk to, but I'm going to butcher their last names if I try, and then the name of their company. They do a much better job when I interview them, but I'm going to try. Les Ensembliers? I don't know French at all, but they were just really great guys, really good interview and fun to be with. So let's jump into our first interview with David Kendall.
So joining me in the lounge, David Kendall. Hi, David.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So we are currently in your space.
Yes.
One of the largest spaces in the house, right?
Yeah, it is large, and actually it's kind of large in the sense that the volume of the space is huge. And so because we're based in London, we didn't really see the house until I was sent for the kick-off meeting, and I came back and was like, it's a complex space. Because it's not a perfect square. You've got this great volume, but the volume kind of shoots up through the stairwell, and our demise is the first floor, the lift lobby at the back of the first floor, space under the stairs, the first 2 rises of stairs, and that huge landing that's like the size of my flat back in London upstairs.
So how did you guys from London get roped into doing Kips Bay in New York?
I don't think anyone's getting roped in, because I think that we are all doing it for the kids. I mean, I really mean that. I think that, philanthropy is such a huge thing over here, and maybe in a way that it's not in the UK. But having been to the President's Dinner for Kips Bay the last few years and been to previous show houses, I now really understand how important the work that the charity does. But we've worked with Susan Magrino, who does the promotion for the house and the charity for the last 10 years on and off, because we worked with them when we opened the London NYC and the London West Hollywood hotels that we designed. And so Susan and her team have always said, you've got to do Kips Bay, you've got to do Kips Bay, you've got to do Kips Bay. So this year we thought we'd do Kips Bay.
Okay.
Yeah.
When they offered you this space, what was the reaction?
Well, you don't get a choice, so and you're just very grateful that you're given anything. So
sure.
We were super pleased. And I'll tell you, because we kind of thought, well, first of all, it's the first thing people see and the last thing that people see before they leave. And it's a huge space, and it's really impactful, if that is a real word. And it really presented an opportunity to kind of set the tone for the house and do something special and fun and playful and subversive and architectural, and kind of give the house a personality. And then people got the stairs, and then everyone else's personality comes through. So
sure.
It was really, we thought it was a very important space, and we were really, really happy to get it.
So tell me a little bit about what was the inspiration. Where did you guys start?
Okay, so we had this idea that 16 years ago we did a bar in a hotel in London called the Blue Bar, and it's in the Barclay Hotel, and people love this hotel, and they love it because it kind of started off, it's become quite iconic, and it started off this little mini revolution in hotel bars when they kind of became destinations. Really in London, like we did the Blue Bar, the Barclay, the Connaught Bar, the Connaught and the Claridge's Bar, Claridge's, and this little triumvirate of hotels really kind of set off a little scene. And so people love this bar and they're wedded to it, and they might not realise this, but the bar is actually a series of listed or landmark panels that we reconfigured to create a little room at the side of the Barclay Hotel lobby. And because they're listed, we weren't allowed to paint them. because we had to use a gesso plaster to layer on them so that it could all be removed and they would be protected and remain intact. But what people don't realise is the reason people really have an emotional resonance with that bar is because the blue colour that you read as one colour blue is actually sort of 50 different shades of blue, because this hand layered gesso is really, it's quite clever, and it kind of has some red in there. And so what we wanted to do is we wanted to kind of recreate that in a residential setting, because people, as I say, they just have this affinity with that colour and the space and the panelling. And so we worked with Hyde Park Mouldings here in the city to kind of do something that's inspired by the Blue Bar, certainly not a replica of it, because we brought a few things in that we wanted to. We kind of looked over our old projects and things we'd referenced in the past and we liked. So this stripy floor is based on the stripes in the Duomo de Siena, the Siena Cathedral, with the striped columns, and we've referenced that in a restaurant project called Massimo before in London. And so we took all these little things we'd done before and we subverted them and inverted them and kind of recreated them for Kips Bay. God,
That's fun that you just said the Siena.
The Duomo de Siena.
Yeah, the Duomo, because I was actually just there this last summer.
Oh, it's so lovely. It's so special. It's so special.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, we love it. We love it. And those things are kind of, people see them and they think, oh God, it's so modern, and it was built hundreds of years ago, and it's really, those things really kind of take on their own life, like those and in the UK there's a well-known pizza brand and they have these stripes, and people probably don't understand that that's referencing, we didn't design this store, it's like a high street chain, but people don't understand that the reason they appreciate it and they understand it, and on some level they understand that it's referencing this really important building and the architecture there, and these things take on their own life and a vernacular of their own.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, no. So I love the space back by the elevator.
Jane Eyre's Red Room. Have you ever read Jane Eyre?
No.
Well, in Jane Eyre, she has the Red Room, which is where she's sent by her stepmother when she's been deemed to have been naughty, and it's like her subconscious. That's our Red Room. We wanted to, but listen, the Blue Bar has like red accents, and we thought, well, listen, why not work with Farrow and Ball? We worked with them using their Cook's Blue to lacquer the panelling, and we thought we'd just add this punch of colour at the back. And we borrowed this really fabulous artwork from the gallery, Liz O'Brien, because we kind of thought that it really kind of, the lighting is such that it gives this fabulous reflection and it adds another layer of texture to the space.
Sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
And then upstairs, you've got this fantastic paper that goes up. Tell me about the paper. Okay,
so the paper is kind of very important to us. It's very special, we think. I can say that because I'm obviously in charge of the marketing and I didn't design it, so I can say it's fabulous. It's a collaboration with Baker. We're working with them to create a David Collins studio for Baker collection. It's going to launch in September this year. It's our designs. It's going to be wall coverings, fabrics, textiles, and this is the first preview of that collection. And we have created this custom hand-screened wallpaper made here in America. It's quite complex because obviously it looks like a series of snakes. It's actually based on a Japanese bookbinding paper that we've used in a past project, and we've reinterpreted the design and the scale and the colour and the pattern, and it's the gold, like a matte gold, a claret red and a navy blue. We're super happy with it. It works in the space because see by the door it picks up on the gold, and then as you move through the space it becomes more navy, and then back up at the top where the light hits it again it becomes something else. So we're quite chuffed. People seem to like it, which is all that matters.
Was this a custom?
It's custom. So listen, we designed the pattern. We gave it to a fabric designer at Baker. We then worked with them to tessellate the pattern, and it's really complex. It's like a kind of kaleidoscope, and they kind of did an amazing job at working that out. And we're working with Tristan Butterfield at Baker, and then off the back of this special one-off paper made for Kips Bay, we're going to be doing this larger collection, which is really exciting. I mean, like if Baker come to you and say, do you want to do a collection?
Right.
You say yes.
When and how many times?
Exactly. We'll start with September and then we'll see.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, David, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
This has been fun.
It has been fun.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So joining me in the lounge is Suzanne Kasler. Hi, Suzanne.
How are you? Great to see you here at Kips Bay.
Well, thanks for having me, and thanks for taking some time to talk about your great room.
Well, it's been an exciting thing. This is my first year doing Kips Bay. I'm an interior designer from Atlanta, Georgia, and I was asked to do Kips Bay this year, and it really is such an iconic show house, really the best show house really in the country. And so it's really been exciting to be part of it.
So how do you feel, how did you get involved with it? Because a lot of the designers here are from New York, and you're so far away. Did you just submit?
a proposal, or how did that happen?
Well, I'm one of the Architectural Digest 100 designers, and Margaret Russell called me and asked if I would invited me to consider thinking about being in Kips Bay. And Bunny Williams, who's the chairperson, she also called and talked to me about it. Both Margaret and Bunny are friends and people I really admire in the industry, and was very honored that they thought of me to include me in Kips Bay.
Living in Atlanta and doing a show house thousands of miles away, how did that go?
Well, what we did is we put everything together, actually in Atlanta, and we then brought it all here. I do shop all over and come to New York often, and one of my first stops was to the beautiful Bouvet Carpet place, a rug dealer here in New York, and that was really actually one of the first things that started our concept of our room.
You started down on the floor and worked your way up.
Well, one of the things, certainly we had a concept, and I was inspired by the classic tailored building. It's kind of it's a new building, and it has a beautiful limestone coloring, and that kind of inspired my direction on design. I have the family room, which is right off the kitchen, and then connects to the outdoor space. So that was also exciting. And so I have a really great place in the house. So I did a space that I created an architectural envelope that was all about using a room that's white. I did the Pharaoh and Ball pointing white and lacquered the high gloss walls, ceiling, and trim. And it created a really edited backdrop for my layering and composition of design.
Sure. To pull a room together like this takes probably a lot of different vendors. What are some of the vendors that helped you besides the rug company?
Well, yes, all of us in design have people that are so supportive. And one of the things that I found interesting about the Kips Bay Show House is how many people are so happy to help and be involved. One of the things we ended up doing, my partner, I do a furniture collection for Hickory Chair, and they're the main parent company, Heritage Home, is a big sponsor of Kips Bay this year. So certainly we were able to use some of my pieces.
Sure.
But all the way from the flooring person, the old Savannah floor, to the rug people, and also Best & Company, which is the contractor company, they donated a lot of their services and time and helped me implement the design concept of our room. They did all the molding and the trim work and the construction. And they did, everybody just did a fabulous job. We also used the decorative supply molding. We did a 5-piece crown, and it's all plaster molding. And I think it turned out to be so chic and very handsome.
Yeah, it's not your normal crown molding. It's got a very unique profile.
Yes, and I think it fit beautifully with this kind of classical, I love mixing modern, and I have a number of antique pieces and new and vintage. And I just love that whole combination, and I think the thing I loved about this trim, it kind of has that, it kind of relates to all of those periods of design.
Sure. Well, Suzanne, how can people learn more about you and what you're up to?
Well, I just started 4 times a year on our website, more of a blog. I only do it on our website, and I do it spring, summer, winter, fall. And I really give a lot more dimension to what we're doing and all the things that I'm about. And we've just released our 2nd issue, which is spring. And that is kind of a great way to see all the things that we're doing with our design firm and what's happening in the design world in Atlanta.
Okay. So send them over to your website?
Yes.
Well, thanks for your time.
Well, thank you for coming and visiting us. And you're going to find the show house so many inspiring ideas everywhere. It's really one of the most beautiful show houses I have ever been part of.
So joining me in the lounge, I have Alex Papachristidis.
Hi, Nick. How are you?
I nailed it.
You totally got it right. Perfect.
Tell me about this fantastic room we're in.
Well, the room really, it's a dining room. But the concept behind it is it's a dining room with a seating area. Because I live in a big country house with my family that we share. And sometimes getting people to dinner is like herding cats. So I thought, how nice would it be to have a seating area where everybody can arrive, have a drink, and then sit down to dinner and have a hot meal.
I love it. I love it. I'm just noticing your floor.
Well, the floor is a painted floor. I love to have unusual surfaces and a variety of things going from room to room. So we did this wonderful chevron pattern. And I also like to create a shell. So the walls, the floor, they're all sort of light, but they have a great deal of detail. The curtains, it's all a very sort of soft, pale palette, which is very relevant to my current decorating. My clients are liking the creams and taupes and grays and whites and beiges. But I like to mix it with gold and silver to give it a real dash.
Yeah. Where did you start with the design in this room?
Well, the design started probably with the dining room table, which is by an artisan, Eve Kaplan. And my decorating is really about a mix of making 18th century furniture feel relevant and using contemporary artisans to make things for my rooms so that you're getting a unique, one-of-a-kind couture feeling. The table is by a wonderful woman by the name of Eve Kaplan, and it's made out of ceramic with a glass top with a brass edge. It's mixed with 18th century Italian chairs from Dalva Brothers. The chandeliers are 18th century Georgian, and we've taken apart the beads. Gerald Bland, who represents Eve Kaplan, took some of the crystals off the chandelier and added beads from Eve Kaplan. So there's that artistic. And we're saving antiques and bringing them back, which I think is so important today. You know, antique furniture is truly green and relevant.
Yeah, because why get rid of something?
Yeah, why get rid of something that's beautiful? And it's so well made. You can't recreate that kind of quality today.
Right. The crown molding. Tell me about that.
Well, I
love it.
I worked very closely with the architects, Fairfax and Salmons. And, we built houses together and done many projects. And again, the crown molding is a plaster molding that we made to match the walls. You can see through the windows, and you see the fretwork on the windows. It's custom designed to match the plaster. So you get that. Your eye doesn't really realize it, but there's that harmony and symmetry. There's a lot of things going on in this room, and the walls are Gracie wallpaper that were hand-painted in China for the room. And the original concept comes from a room that Elsa de Wolf, the famous decorator, did for Condé Nast, interestingly enough, in his own apartment.
Wow.
And it was one of the first great statements of her career that really got her a lot of business. It was an 18th century paper with an architectural backdrop, which I thought was so interesting because I love that architectural feeling, but I still wanted to bring nature in. So you've got the plants and the flowers and the birds. And again, we did it in a grisaille, which it was originally done very colorful, but I thought it felt updated. And we also blew up the scale of the design to make it feel modern.
Yeah.
I think that's the way you take antiques and historic design and make them feel fresh and new and current.
And yours.
Yes, and your own.
Yeah.
We're all always adapting things, and there's so many great elements in history that we can learn from. And I think as a designer, it's so important to have a knowledge of the history of decoration so that you can tweak it and modernize it and keep it.
Sure.
And make it new.
Sure.
And relevant.
So what were the challenges on this project? I know I've talked to a lot of the designers here. When you have a client, you have a very specific direction you're going, and really, you're the client this time. What was challenging about that?
Sometimes it's difficult to be your own client, I think, but truthfully, you know what? It all comes from your heart and your gut, and it's just what you feel. And I just always felt this room, and I shopped everywhere and pulled all the things together, and it's all the sort of the magic that I haven't done that's stored in my brain and that I wanted to do, and it just all comes out.
Sure.
And you make it. And yeah, it's hard not to have a client, but you are your own client. And these incredible consoles belonged to a great style icon, a woman by the name of Mona von Bismarck, who was an incredibly chic style icon of the 20th century and has been written about and talked about. She wore Balenciaga and Fedora jewelry, and she was a furniture collector and a decorating junkie, and she was married 3 times, or always very publicized life. And again, these consoles sort of channeled Mona for me. And so she's sort of that client that isn't there.
Sure.
And then also it's all about my current clients who inspire me all the time. And you know, this is what we're doing. We're doing gold and silver and white and gray and taupe for people.
How many times have you been here and done Kips Bay?
This is my 4th Kips Bay. I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah, you have. What keeps bringing you back?
Well, first of all, you know, Kips Bay is actually an amazing cause. If you've ever been to the settlement, it's really just so incredible what they do for these kids. And that's the most important thing to remember. It's a charity, and it's giving back to help these kids have activities after school to help them to find careers. And, you know, they're our future. So that's very important. And as a New Yorker, born and raised, I feel very strongly about supporting local charities. Yeah. And I think charity, you know, begins at home. And this is a New York charity. Now, on the other hand, it's also been a very important charity for the interior design business because it's showcased interior designers. And it was really my first public presentation. You know, we don't advertise really, and I've always advertised. Every year since I've started, I've never missed a Kips Bay Journal ad. And I always donate things and do for Kips Bay because it is a wonderful and important part of our industry that I think we need to pay attention to. And then it doesn't help that Bunny Williams picked up the phone and said, "Alex, you have to do a show house room." So I said, of course I'll do it.
Yeah.
But it's I haven't done it in 10 years, and it was time. It's hard to keep reinventing yourself, you know, so you sort of have to really take it to a fresh perspective, and it's nice to do once you feel you're ready. Yeah. And it's something that's such a commitment. You have to do it with your whole heart.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the nicest things about the show house this year. You see a lot of heart and a lot of ideas in the show house. People have really been very creative and gone out of their way and done some really wonderful, interesting things. And you want people to come through the house and get ideas, you know?
Yeah, there's been some amazing things. I knew coming to the show house, that there were, you know, people were pushing the envelope, and I have not been disappointed.
Well, that's what makes it exciting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you. So happy to meet you, Nick.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, in the lounge with me right now is Katie Curtis. Hi, Katie.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, and we're hanging out in your hallway.
At the Kips Bay Decorator Show House.
That's right. Where does yours start and stop?
So our space starts on the 3rd floor. We have the landing of the 3rd floor and the back alcove, and it continues on up the stairs to the 4th floor landing, and we also have the back hallway up to the 5th floor.
So where are we right now? Because I'm totally lost.
We are on the 4th floor landing.
This house is really tall.
It's really tall.
I keep getting confused as to what level I'm on. You've gone all from downstairs all the way to everything I can see right now.
Correct.
Yeah. So where
including back here.
In the back hall.
Right.
Oh, and we'll have to talk about that too.
Right.
When you were given this space, where did you start?
So having 3.5 levels to do, I thought immediately
it's a lot of square footage.
It's going to be a spiritual experience, right? So I started with the metaphor.
So you started praying.
I did. I did. I started with a metaphor of this path to enlightenment.
Okay.
When you're tasked with designing something as important and as high profile as Kips Bay, you want to pull out all the stops, right? So I thought, what would be my ultimate resource? And the first thing that popped into my mind was Decorator. So I reached out to them and asked them if they were on board with the path to enlightenment, and they were. So there's a very important story in the wallpaper. It's all hand-painted silk and tea paper. And you'll notice the progression starts on the 3rd floor with the butterflies. It gets more intricate up the stair to the 4th floor. And then by the time you get to the 5th floor, the butterflies dissipate and it literally transitions into nothingness or freedom, if you want to think of it as a spiritual journey.
So was this all custom made just for this space?
It was all custom made for this space, hand painted.
You had 4 weeks to do that, right?
Not even.
How did you get that done?
Miracles.
You were praying.
Miracles. It was a spiritual journey. I'm not kidding.
Oh my gosh, and it's amazing. I will put some pictures of it in the show notes so people can see what it actually looks like. Because to describe it, this has been a theme throughout all of my interviews. To describe it, I'm not going to do it justice, and so we'll have to have some pictures of it.
You have to have the visual for sure.
Yeah.
But if we just had this beautiful hand-painted wallpaper in the space, it could get a little too girly or froofy or just a little too feminine. So we chose to highlight this amazing architectural stair with the high gloss blue paint and really make this a contemporary feature that offsets the very traditional wallpaper.
Yeah, because if you put the wallpaper everywhere, it might have just been too much.
It would be a little too Upper East Side for the Upper East Side.
And doing a high gloss on drywall is a challenge.
It is definitely a challenge. I think it's still a challenge.
Yeah. What have been some challenges for you? This is your first Kips Bay, correct?
It is.
So what have been some of the challenges along the way?
So the main challenge was obviously we're in the center of everyone else's spaces. So we kind of had to work around everyone else's schedule, and we were the last people to be able to bring in the lighting and the furniture and all of that. So everyone else was done pretty much, and we still haven't even brought in furniture or installed light fixtures. And we had one day to do all that, which was Friday, and then we had all of the photo shoots on Saturday. So we really had to have all of our proverbial ducks in a row to be able to come in with our team and get everything done on Friday, which we're used to doing a lot of times with our clients in the city, and we have deadlines, and we're a pretty well-oiled machine that way, but it was down to the wire.
Yeah. How did you get into Kips Bay? Because a lot of people want to know, how do you become a designer that is selected for Kips Bay?
Right. So we applied.
Just plain and simple, just like they say.
You apply.
Yeah. How long ago did you apply?
We applied. We work with a publicist, and we also do work with one of the general contractors who's very involved in the house.
Sure.
And they both submitted me, almost unbeknownst to me, actually, but they submitted my team to be chosen as one of the designers. And then you wait a few weeks while the selection process is going on. And then you don't get to pick your space. You're given what you're given, and you smile and say thank you very much and go to it.
Thanks for including us.
It's a big honor.
Yeah.
It's a tremendous honor.
Absolutely.
And it can really be a career changer for many designers.
How can people learn more about you? Is there a website we can send people to?
KatiCurtisDesign.com, KatiCurtis design.com.
Awesome. Thanks, Katie.
Thank you.
All right, joining me in the lounge right now, actually in the closet, is Richard and Max. Tell me the name of the company, because I know I'm going to mess it up.
So the name of the company is called Les Ensembliers, and the French meaning of Les Ensembliers is a group in the early years, I would say 18th century.
18th, 19th centuries and early 20th centuries. Les Ensembliers was a trade that was a designer who was building his own decor. So it's a true, as we say in French, métier. Like, you know, it's
connecting all of the artisans around a project. So it's sort of like an ensemble. So Les Ensembliers is an ensemble of people that work together on a project and making sure that every piece of the puzzle has an importance. And the importance comes through all of the artisans that are around the project. So that made sense to us to have Les Ensembliers as a name.
Fantastic. And now, you know, here in America, we're not so cultured, and so you guys are not from the United States originally, right?
We're from Canada.
We're from Canada.
Okay, awesome. And
Quebec, actually.
Beavers.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the space that you guys were given to make over.
So we were assigned her dressing room, and which we called it Le Jardin Secret, because of her secret garden. The idea behind the room is it's actually an enfilade, a continuation of 3 rooms. One really small one where we have the shoes and the bags.
Kind of the entry point.
Exactly. Yes. And it feels really sort of like a traditional space in the essence of a dressing closet, because it has all of the necessary means. So you've got the drawers, you've got the shoes, you've got the bag in those 2 small rooms. And then you're coming in at the end of a path into a larger room facing front facade of the building, facing Barney's. It's her jewel box, her space, her most private space where she can spend time by herself with a friend, or even with the buyers from Barney's that can come over and just try out some dresses. So that's the idea behind that room. We wanted it to feel like the most intimate space of the home.
And the most refined, because this is where she would keep her most precious treasures, the things that she would only keep for her own eyes. And so that was
that's the meaning behind it.
Yes.
So it's probably the nicest closet I've ever been in.
Well, thank you. That's a great compliment.
And it's fantastic. To describe it, I don't think I'm going to do justice. So why don't you guys give us the little tour here?
So the idea behind it started actually Maxime's vision, because Max is an architect and he sees things in a way that come from the outer box and then you're going in. So the idea behind the ceiling was Max's idea to say, okay, let's talk to the architecture of the building. So,
because, when we got the room, this is a new construction with an old facade, so there was nothing, there's no molding. This is a plywood box with sheetrock. There was nothing at all. So we didn't want the project to feel like a condo that we would have decorated. So we had to intervene into the heart of the building. So we went for plaster ceiling. That was the first.
Just to make it easy, because it took only 15 days out of a month to do the
plaster. Well,
so it's really a great idea.
And the plaster ceiling, because it's a kind of, the house is a early Art Deco, late Beaux-Arts, a bit of Bauhaus. It's a kind of a strange facade. So we went for something that is an Art Deco grid that we deconstruct to make a kind of an abstract pattern. And it needed to be symmetrical just for fabrication purposes. And that's how we really anchor the room by treating the ceiling first.
So the ceiling speaks to the floor, because they actually echo each other, and then the walls are pushed back and higher by the 4 built-ins in the corner. So what we wanted to do is create as big, because it's not such a big room, we wanted to create the effect of the room by having the 4 cabinets custom made in the corners, so that you would feel like the room is pushing out in the corners. And the height is given out by the effect that the dark lacquer coming through from the doors, the inspiration was a peacock feather. The peacock feather has such gorgeous colors and ooze of gold and teal blues. So what we did is we worked with the artisans to make sure that they would work with their spatula and just work the magic on the panels. But we didn't want the built-ins to be too strong either, so we only made the doors as the star and created the backdrop as the built-ins sort of like fade into the background and connect to the wallpaper of shagreen on the wall. So again, the jewel box effect is created by that base.
And the shagreen wallpaper goes up to the ceiling. It's not just ending on a crown molding. It's just it's turning, it's wrapping in the ceiling. So that really create the effect of being in a cocoon.
So that's why when I was saying that it connects to the floor, the carpet from Carini, which is amazing old carpet, textured in color, is actually, to me, connecting to the ceiling of plaster. But the fact that the wrapping of the paper, as Maxime was saying, from the ceiling coming down to the walls and having the same tones and colors and textures from the carpet on the floor, wall to wall, then you connect all of these walls together really to get the effect of the box. So that's the idea behind that. And having the light fixture custom made with Gabriel Scott, which is really a contemporary art piece hanging from the ceiling. To us, it feels like a pearl necklace hanging from the ceiling and playing against the backdrop of the ceiling in plaster. They all work together in contrast.
The whole idea of a jewel box, you've really captured that.
Thank you.
Here in the space. What's been challenging about doing a show house so far away from where you guys live?
There was some setbacks, but at the end,
couple of fights.
Yeah, we had a fire. First week we had a fire in the room. So that was
oh my gosh!
Yeah.
And I'm happy that Maxime,
thankfully it was early in the project and not late in the project.
Yes,
and I love the fact that Maxime and Eliane always think that I'm sort of like the panic person that always presses the red button. I was not in the office when we heard that there was a fire, and after the situation was fixed and everything was good, they elected not to tell me until it was really, really fixed. So
we were just happy that the sprinkler head did not pop up, because that would have been really bad.
But so it's part of the experience.
We've seen other stuff before, so it's always a matter of keeping your calm and looking at the end result, keeping the focus.
Well, how can people learn more about you guys and what you guys are up to?
Ensembliers, so ENSEMBLIERS.com.
Well, thanks, guys, for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the show.
Thank you.
So if you have an opportunity to go out to the Kips Bay Decorator Show House, I highly recommend it. They're going to be there through June 9th, so you have a couple more weeks to go. It is a fantastic house. A lot of people were saying this has been one of the best show homes that they've ever seen. And I don't know if they say that every year, but it was fantastic. I mean, I've been to a couple show homes, and this was definitely by far the best show home that I've ever been to. The amount of amazing things that I saw and the level of detail that these designers took this house to is just unbelievable. I'm going to try and do my best to get some pictures up in the show notes so that you can see some of the things that I saw. But what a fantastic show house. So I normally have advertisers, but because this is a special show, I don't actually have advertisers. So what I thought I would do is I would just reiterate some of the companies that were supporting these designers and the Kips Bay Show House. It really does take kind of a village to put this whole thing on. And the companies that come alongside these designers, I mean, they really go out of their way to really make sure that this is a phenomenal show house. One of the things that I loved about talking with different folks is that how everybody really stood behind this whole concept of the show house, because they all are so supportive of what Kips Bay Boys and Girls Club is doing, and they're really the recipients of the money that this show house generates every year. I really wanted to just say thank you to all the companies that come together, stack hands, really support the design community, support the designers that have been selected for these rooms, and give of their time and their resources and their items. You know, Baker Furniture come alongside of David Collins and the team over there, and then Hickory Chair and the folks at DeGournay, and then so many other folks that really just, you know, they believe in what's being done. And I personally have not experienced and I have not seen what goes on at the Boys and Girls Club there at Kips Bay, but so many of them talked about that they have seen it, and I thought that was really fantastic. So thanks for joining me on this special episode of Kips Bay, and know that next week we're going to have round 2. We're going to have a few more designers, and also I'll be checking in with Phyllis, and we're going to talk about what does it take to really be a part of a show house of this magnitude, or any show house really across the country, because it is just more. It's more than time, and it's more than money. It's all of the above, and I think a lot of times it's a lot more than we think it's going to be. So thanks for joining me this week. I'm Nick May, reminding you to keep dreaming big and keep designing a great design business. See ya.